Wilson Contreras has had some big hits. However, I didn't realize this. I was just really curious. And I'm not trying to be down on him, but I just wonder. I'm not down on him. I'm just wondering what's going on. I wonder if all this nutty stuff's catching up with him a little bit. But I also don't want to make excuses for him. Since the Cardinals did their, after embarrassing themselves by pulling an $87.5 million catcher out of his job, and by catering to whiny little baby pitchers who wouldn't take responsibility for their own sad sack, sorry pitching, and then getting buried nationally by how stupid it was, they did the big dog and pony show. Oh, he's our catcher. He's our guy. Yeah. No, actually, let me translate for you. Man, did we get embarrassed? We never anticipated this kind of blowback. Man, we got to save face. So that led to the big dog and pony. Like, no, he's our catcher. He is our catcher. Period. Okay, never mind that. Never mind that. Since that big dramatic announcement, Andrew Kisner's catching 1 out of every 3 games. That's a pretty high rate for a kind of lousy backup catcher.
Yep, agreed. So,
as I said yesterday, this idea that they were going to actually do what they said when they're trying to con everybody, it's changed somewhat, but not as much as we think. And we can get into that a little more, but it's. I just noticed watching the game, and I'm thinking again, even though Contreras caught last night, I'm thinking, that whole thing going into that Monday night game, May 15th against the Brewers, when Contreras, quote, returned as a catcher, they're kind of like half fibbing. They wanted you to believe that, but it's not really happening.
Right.
It's not happening. It's happening to an extent. All right. So, I tell you, I wonder at times what is going through Wilson Contreras' mind. Because, listen, he has to take ownership for his performance. And I think he is a stand-up guy. But I'm not making excuses. But sometimes you do have to acknowledge factors. Could be kind of, working into somebody's head. Because he knows he's a smart, prideful guy. He knows basically they were half telling the truth about he's going to be the catcher. He was all happy about that. Very, very happy. And I'm not going to say they're really reneged on it, but I am going to say they're not fully committed to him as a catcher. And so I wouldn't blame a guy for just kind of like clearing his head and just like, what? Is this place crazy or what? Is it just me? And saying, What's going on around here? I don't understand. I thought I was going to be the full-time catcher. So, with that in mind, I mean, only the Cardinals could sign the top free agent catcher who had the highest OPS among catchers in Major League Baseball since 2016 through 2022. Only the Cardinals could manage the way the Cardinals, because they've lost tremendous brain power. They really have. Only they could screw this up, and they're still screwing it up. They're still screwing it up.
I think, well, let's just start here. And this is not to jump on the other guy, but it's not like you said, the other guy is an all-star quality defensive catcher. We're not talking about somebody that's going to come in here and go, well, this guy, though, he's throwing out 75% of the runners, and his pitch framing is in the top 5. None of that is true about the other guy.
And he had one good run in terms of his offense. He did that last year, though. He had one good run. So
that's where it even gets more befuddling. It's like, if you could convince me that your other option was really good or was much better than anticipated and figured things out, I'd say, okay, maybe. That's not even part of the conversation. So why are you continually going, well, he's our guy, but the other guy's going to catch too? It's not needed.
I don't know why Kisner can't catch like once a week, maybe sometimes twice a week, not once every 3 games.
No.
And, it's my theory. I really can't back it up. Oh, I can back it up with numbers, but they're not. I can't make the claim that they are directly connected, but I have my suspicions. Mm-hmm. So, since the big, dramatic, phony-ass announcement, right?
Yes.
He returned to catching, well, yeah, somewhat, on May the 15th. Here's what Wilson Contreras has done since he was reinstalled as the, quote, starting catcher.
Gotcha.
They really do think people are dumb. They really do. That haughtiness does not serve them well. Anyway, here's what Contreras has done since he returned to the catching position on May 15th against Milwaukee. Here's what he's done in terms of his offense.
Okay.
I was kind of stunned by these numbers. 135 average.
Wow.
220 on base percentage. 324 slug, an OPS of 544. 5 for 37. 2 home runs, 1 double. So they signed a guy to boost their offensive catcher, and over the course of the season, he's been doing that when they let him catch. And we talked about this yesterday. I'm not going to repeat the numbers, but when he catches, his offensive numbers are way better than when he's a DH, which, again, brings to light just how impossibly stupid this is. You want him to catch, you signed him and you paid him all the money because, look, you want to get a great offensive catcher that's going to boost that position because it's been so pathetic the last couple years. Except you're moving him back and forth, catcher DH, catcher DH, catcher DH. And you, John Mozeliak and Ali Marmol, you were the ones that when you had your big meeting with him before you signed him, you were concerned that he didn't want to catch, that he wanted to be a DH. And he almost took offense to that. And he said, no, I take pride in being a catcher. I want to be a catcher. And Mo and Marmol, they were relieved to hear that. Oh, okay, we're all on the same page. Let's go.
Yep.
And then they're the one that broke the word, but they were actually accusing him in a way of not wanting to catch. It was 100% fabrication. Once again, I don't know what's happened to these people. I just really don't. I just really don't. Okay, so you sign him because you want him to beef up the offensive catcher position. Okay, he was doing it, but you won't leave him alone. You're jerking him all around. Right? And then your grand idea is you're going to move him to DH. He's one of the worst DHs in baseball. His numbers at DH are horrible. So, you know what? I don't care who you are. If you keep messing with someone back and forth, oh, you're a catcher. No, you're not our catcher. Okay, now you're our catcher again. No, he's our guy. What? Okay, go play DH again for a couple days. You know, I don't know, man. I would think it's, let's just say, more difficult to kind of get your bearings. And this numbskull operation continues to mess with Wilson Contreras for no good reason at all. And lately, he's not even been able to give them the offense they thought they were going to get. And by the way, which they would have gotten had they just left the man alone. He takes pride in catching. It's kind of who he is. It's his identity. It just makes him more competitive because he's involved in the game. And you had the Dodgers whining about how he's stealing strikes by bullying the umpires and all that. And you saw what it is, how he was when a couple of these games were pretty dramatic. I mean, he's up in the middle of everything. And these people have absolutely messed with his head. And they've taken some of that edge away. Because you're a natural-born, trained catcher, and that's your identity that you actually take pride in. You want to be considered the right guy to succeed Yadier Molina. And you start messing with that guy? Is it possible to be more stupid than they are with this? No, it's not.
No, you can't. You found a new way to ruin a good hitter. That's what you've done. I mean, as you're throwing out numbers, it's like, wait a minute, this guy has always been a proven major league power, middle of the order bat, and right now he's not because of what you're doing to him.
He still has good numbers, even with this stretch.
Yeah, the stretch.
And this stretch, by the way, includes DH games too.
Right.
But they're ruining him.
Yeah. I wonder, and I don't know how we're going to find the true information. I just think, knowing the way the Cardinals want their clubhouse to look and feel, I don't think they're happy with the. What's the right word? He's an outgoing guy. I don't think they care for that. I really don't think they care for that. They're like, oh, wait a minute. It's not really the way we do things around here. And I think that hurts him.
That makes them even more idiotic.
That's who he is.
He's been around a long time.
Yes.
Everyone knows his personality. So before you hand over $87.5 million over the next 5 years, don't you think you need to factor that in advance? Because even they said, he was an opponent, man. We hated him. Who did they think they were getting?
Yes.
A guy that's, like a college professor, librarian type personality. And by the way, Yadier Molina could really stir things up in the clubhouse and elsewhere too. I mean, this is just pure craziness. It's absolute insane.
And the other thing I would add is they need that within their clubhouse.
Oh,
they need somebody with a little good. Last night's game, case in point, DeYoung got hit. And DeYoung got thrown at last night when he got hit. Yeah. It wasn't a mistake. That was thrown at him. And then later in the game, pitch was up and in to Contreras, and he kind of barked back.
And he should have.
He should have. I don't see anybody else bark at all on that team last night. And it should have been something.
I'm going to bring up something to follow your point. I'm glad you raised it. Don't you, when you watch Lars Nootbaar, doesn't he seem a hell of a lot more subdued than he was last year?
He does. He's a lot quieter.
Did the boys not like that he's over representing Japan and he's doing the pepper grinder and everyone loves it and he's a big international star? He's enthusiastic, but nowhere near in terms of this big personality and just kind of like over-the-top enthusiasm. That guy's not there.
No, he's not.
So what is it about these people where they don't want players to be themselves in a way that is infectious in terms of being good and infectious, having, total enthusiasm, being boisterous when warranted, and in Contreras' case, one of the things these liars said, we want an edgy catcher. That's what Yachty was. We want an edgy guy. Yep. We want a guy to get on the other team's nerves. No, you didn't want that. So why are you lying?
I don't get that part of it, and I'm glad you threw out Nootbaar because you're right. He's not the pepper grinder. We even got rid of the elbow thing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in a week.
And I don't know who's saying stop it, but let me tell you something, and Cardinals fans, don't get mad at me. This is exactly why the national media for years and years and years just mocked the Cardinals. Just like being haughty, being way too serious without having fun playing the game.
Yeah.
And the haughty Cardinals are going to this is how we do everything. Okay, when's the last time you were in a World Series? When's the last time you won it all? If this is how you're doing everything, then maybe you ought to reconsider, I don't know, how about lightening up a little bit? Because now Contreras, apparently, it's like, that guy's like, this guy's a maniac. Yeah, everybody knew that. But to somehow suppress Nootbaar's usual flair and personality and joy, listen, I'll say it again. I say it all the time. I don't know what the hell's wrong with these people. I really don't.
Got to let them play and let them be themselves. And to your point, you knew what this guy was. You knew this is how he played the game. To go in here and say, you can't do that anymore here. That's not going to work. That's not how it works.
And they may have not said that to him, but listen, you can pick up on the vibe.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, the vibe is there.
I think it's really disappointing. But this is what happens when you mess with a guy's head who's a really terrific hitter for a catcher. Again, best since 2016 among catchers through last season at OPS. And they have somehow managed to screw that up. I don't, man. I know they're playing good ball, and I should focus on that, and I am. But they're playing good ball without getting a hell of a lot from Contreras, and I don't want to sit there and say, this guy's not what he's supposed to. I don't want to do that because they screw with him all the time, and they're still doing it. Anyway.
Emotion is needed. I'll throw one more thing that I thought was cool this week. When Gorman hit his home run and he slammed that bat. It was like,
hey, we can't see more
right.
Than that.
I thought it was great because it was kind of like,
that's not the curtain to wait.
See, you give me a chance, and this is what I can do. That's what it spoke to me when he threw that bat against hitting that home run off the left-handed bat. I was like, there.
No,
you're gonna give me there. I can do this.
No, in the church of the St. Louis Cardinals, we do not do that. You must drop the bat quietly and show the other side respect.
I thought that was awesome, and I hope he does it some more. They need some emotion.
I've been texting back and forth with my brother Brad, who lives in the Baltimore area, and he's, he'll text me watching Orioles games. He says, "Can you believe this team?" And I said, "Look, I don't have a chance to watch as much as I would."
That Orioles team's.
If I didn't have to actually write and talk about the Cardinals, I'd be watching a lot of Baltimore Orioles games. I mean, I would still be watching the Cardinals too, but I would make the Orioles. And we were talking about this the other night. He says, "You just look at that team; they're really, really good. They're chasing down the Rays." And you watch their games, and those games are so much fun because everyone on that team has a ball. There's joy in their game. They're boisterous. They're demonstrative. They're silly.
Yes.
You look at that, and it's like, man, that's a great – that is so fresh. That is so fun. And then you got this stodgy group here, right?
It's okay to show the emotion.
And the only one who's allowed to show off a little bit – is the 41-year-old pitcher. So that's okay. He wants to be the showman.
Yeah.
He wants to be the one always in front of Fox when they do the interviews and all that. Oh, it's okay for Waino to be flashy and flamboyant, but no. Be careful. You're in our church. I don't.
The burger phone thing is his idea, and I noticed the TV cameras have made damn sure they show it every time it's on the rail. I'm like, come on, guys.
And I'm glad you brought that up. And this is my opinion only. I'm sure many people disagree with me. If they do, that's fine. It's their opinion.
Yep.
I think it's stupid, actually.
It is.
It's clumsy. In a way, it's kind of like, okay, well, what?
I'll be honest. I think at least from the media side of it, on the TV side, it was forced because the first time they kept showing it, I go, what the hell is that thing? And they kept showing it, and they kept showing it, and they kept showing it. And I'm like, what? Why are they showing this? And then it eventually came out, and the backstory, it's like, oh, okay. Whatever. The pitchers came up with this idea for home runs for the offense. Okay, all right.
That was a Miles Michaelis thing. Yeah, I mean, try better luck next time. But I guess we're stuck with this.
We are stuck
the other
with
thing,
the burger
too,
phone.
The thing's got like a phone cord. First of all, you're going to do it right. No, you don't need a phone cord. You're not actually making a call.
I thought it was plugged into something at first.
So, because of that, it's like kind of getting in the way. It's kind of clumsy. You know what would be like a really bad thing to happen is if like somebody trips over the cord, gets hurt. They can't even do that right. It's such a lame thing anyway. But it's like, what? Anyway, all right. I'm going to, before we'll take our next break at the bottom of the hour, I think. I think it was important. I wanted to give Wainwright at least 4 or 5 stars, so he's at the 4-star level. And I'm going to read you some stats. You got to listen to him because I'm trying to analyze his pitching so far and get into we know what the ERA is, and just to get in a little deeper and find out where he's declining, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
His ERA is 6.33. He's given up 15 earned runs in 21 and a third innings. That would be the worst ERA in his career, of course. His adjusted ERA is 33% below the league average, 33% below average, the worst of his career. He's averaged only 4.3 innings per start, lowest of his career. Opponents are batting .308 against him with a .549 slugging percentage and a nearly .900 OPS. He's never been anywhere near those kind of numbers as far as what opponents are doing to him. He's yielding nearly 12 hits per 9 innings, which is by far the highest of his career. His strikeout rate in 2021 was 21%, which is not great, but it's okay. And given his other pitches, it's fine. That dropped to 17.8% last year. So you go from 21% to 17.8%. This year, you know what his strikeout rate is?
Oh, it's
17%.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Pardon me. His strikeout rate this year, 10%.
Oh, 10%.
10%.
You can't pitch in the majors if you be successful if you only have a 10% strikeout rate.
That's not only the worst of his career, it is also the worst in the major leagues by a starting pitcher who's made 4 starts. His swing, this is another one.
You know the best place to go for lunch? Penn Station East Coast Subs. Penn Station has hot grilled subs. Those fresh cut fries are awesome. Yeah, you'll probably eat too many, but they are so good. Oh, and fresh squeezed lemonade. The chicken teriyaki, incredible. But people also love the Philly cheesesteak. I mean, how could you not, right? It tastes great, and they make it right in front of you. Yeah, whether it's online ordering, in-store, or sports season catering, you gotta love Penn Station. There's one near you. Go now. Penn Station East Coast Subs.
His swing and miss rate back in the younger days was always really, really good. Really good. Mm-hmm. He ain't missing bats. His swing miss rate is 4.5%. Well, hey, Bernie. Hey, Bernie, you know, he's a savvy guy. He gets those ground ball double plays.
No, he doesn't.
His ground ball rate is 35%, which by far would be the worst of his career. You know what the soft contact, you know, the key to pitching is if you can get soft contact too, right?
I've heard that on the broadcast many times.
His current rate, soft contact, 8.5%, which means a lot of medium and medium hard contact. All right.
Yeah.
According to Fangraphs, Wainwright's fastball is averaging a career low 86 miles an hour. When swinging at Wainwright's pitches in the strike zone, they have a contact rate of 94%. My head hurts. And I could go on, but like, what's the point? I picked on the things that are the most important identifiers about just how off he is, or just kind of what his pitching has turned into. Is this a shock? I mean, you don't see 41, 42-year-old pitchers pull these things off where you're like really good at that age. I mean, some can kind of fight their way through it, but his velocity's gone, and the curveball's pretty good, but not what it used to be. There's no swing and miss. You can't strike guys out. The ball, when you throw strikes, is in play at a huge rate, huge percentage. And I could just go on and on and on. But somehow he's convinced the media that I'm just this close. He turns on the charm. After every one of these bad performances, he turns on the charm. And it's like he does what people don't take this the wrong way when I compare it to a cat. I don't mean that. He does what our cats do when they want something. They lay down on the floor, like right in front of you. They start rolling around, and they make sure, like, they show their belly. It's a sign of like, hey, hi, you know, I need you to do me a favor. I watched that thing last night. That was a command performance. He turned on the charm. He's talking this. He's talking that. He's talking this. And you know what? No one, and I mean no one, will even touch this stuff. And all I'm doing is presenting facts that tells you just how bad it's been so far for him.
It's been really rough.
No one will touch it. I heard on the broadcast last night, and Mrs. Burney actually alerted it to me and said, hey, rewind this. The play-by-play guy was talking about what an artist he is.
Well,
What? And again,
giving up a run an inning is not
Yeah,
it's not good enough.
I really wish I could. Well, I can't lie to you. I can't do what so many other people do and look the other way. If I'm going to analyze the pitcher, I'm going to analyze Matthew Liberatore. I'm going to analyze Miles Miklasz, and then also tell you what Miles Miklasz is doing much better at.
Right.
I'm going to analyze Flaherty. I analyze them all. So what am I going to do? Lie? We're going to withhold facts? This isn't politics. I can speak what the facts are. I can speak to it, even if no one else in this town wants to do it.
Well, his next start is.
You want to hate me? That's fine. I'd rather tell the truth.
He'll be here against the Royals, and if the Royals hit him around and get 4 or 5 runs in 5 innings at Busch Stadium, that's unacceptable. But that's what it is right now. Those are his numbers. That's where he's at, and the man's 41, 42 years old. He's not going to be a guy who's going to have a 2.93 ERA and get you 7 innings every time. He's just never going back to that. And at some point, if they ever get some of this rest of these guys straightened out in terms of starting pitching, he'll be the weakest link.
And you think,
and then it's like, what are we going to do here, guys? A decision will have to be made.
That's what I thought going into the season. Most likely would be Ali Marmol's biggest problem is how to deal with a situation, which is exactly not a surprise, that Adam Wainwright, just because of age, because of all the innings he's pitched, he just doesn't have his stuff anymore. So you say you want to win the division. Okay. All right. How are you going to handle this this sensitive situation? You know what I would answer now? I would say, will they handle this situation the way they should if he doesn't improve? And this just keeps going on. And I hope he improves, but we got to see it. Not have him sweet-talking media people into believing it. If it doesn't improve, how will you handle the situation if you're the manager of the Cardinals, or you're taking directives from the front office because they need the money? They got to make that money, and every time he pitches at Busch Stadium, there's
Yeah.
So how do you handle this if you're Ali Marmol? My prediction, I hope I'm wrong, not well.
Oh, wait, no start.
Not well.
We're going to give him another inning. Okay, he's giving up 4 and 5. But he's going to give him another inning.
I'm surprised. I was checking the wire a little bit. I'm surprised Joe McEwing wasn't fired last night after the game. Because he took the ball from Wainwright, who was like really trying to intimidate him. And it didn't work because McEwing is like, one thing about Super Joe when he was a player, man, he's a hard-ass guy,
Yep.
And McEwing would hear nothing of it, and he wanted the ball. And that was excellent managing right there.
Stratton came in and knocked down, shut the door closed.
Boom.
The door
It
was
might have been
wide open.
3 pitches,
And he said, no, we're done here. That was much needed last night.
So I don't know. I don't know where it's headed, but I hate to say this, too. I hate to be so cynical, but I can't help but wonder, and I just mentioned it. This is the big hero tour. This is
Texter says, but Bernie, it's a bunch of soft contact.
And with Wainwright, we know it ain't that.
No.
I go back to this, all right, when we talk about, and this, the condition here is that he does not improve much, okay? And it's still kind of rough going forward. Red Schoendienst pulled Bob Gibson from the rotation in Gibby's final year. Managers used to have some courage and conviction. Now they are manservants, most of them. There's still a few that aren't. But, Ali, he's a manager. He does a lot of things pretty well. But we know that the front office has more influence than it ever has on the manager. And we know that the front office wanted Waino back because he's a St. Louis Cardinals institution. He really is. But he's also good for business, right?
Yes, he is.
He's good for the old cha-ching, right? He is a slot machine that has been getting those silver dollars and quarters to tumble into the tray. He's been doing that for so long. It's just instant money for ownership. No one thought, or maybe they did. Well, what happens if he's really, really bad and he's healthy? And, he expects to pitch, but we're in a dogfight here. What do we do in that scenario? I'm thinking the answer was like, we'll get through it. Again, got them dollar bills.
That's
dollar
what
bills.
it is about. You're right.
Dollar bills flashing, Wainwright is good for business. Right?
Oh, yes. No doubt about that.
Does anybody disagree?
We got one guy who thinks we're complaining a little bit too much about it. So.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine.
I'm glad you're really good with all these numbers and lack of success. And okay.
Mo is insecure and wants to be the center of attention. It will not. If not, he will smear your name and trade you. Okay.
Not this guy. By the way, and one thing I mentioned this earlier, but I want to mention this real quick again. Because I have people, telling me on Twitter also, well, Bernie, okay, I agree, he hasn't been great, but the Cardinals have actually won 3 of his 4 starts. So why are you complaining? I'm not complaining. I think it's great, and I'm really happy he got to 197. But let's not attribute the 3-1 record to the quality of the pitching. His teammates have averaged 9.3 runs a start for him in run support. I'm thinking that's the main reason why they're 3-1 in the starts. But that's just me. I don't live in some kind of candy land,
Well, here's one from a texter. I'd like to buy Wainwright for what it's worth and sell him for what he thinks he's worth.
Okay, yeah, right.
He's going to sell you high, yeah. No, I'm not going to. Now, with that said, I'm not going to be mean to the guy because the guy has been one of the East behind Bob Gibson. He's the best this franchise has ever seen.
He's second best starter. I really believe the case can be made, and I want him to get to 200.
Yep.
I'd love to see him pitch better because it really would become a wonderful story. But I'm not sure how that's going to happen. I'm looking for a way that we can say, okay, it's that. Oh, it's over here. See?
Yeah.
See that improvement? Until that stuff starts to roll, if it does. Again, I can't sit here and lie. I can't sit here and not tell the truth. It's just stupid.
Texter from earlier pointed out he was out of gas after only 77 pitches last night.
He was.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Yeah, it really is a good point. And what I don't want to hear for people making excuses, well, he went to the WBC and that probably interrupted this, and then he got hurt. And well, sorry. He wanted to go to the WBC. It's not like the Cardinals said, listen, get out of camp, go to the WBC,
Is Waino's ego big enough to put himself above the team?
I think so, unfortunately. Plus, he knows he can get away with it.
I think he can push it, but I think he's still a good teammate. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not a good teammate.
But the ego's there, too.
Yeah, there is an ego.
We saw it on display last night. Oh, you're coming to take me out? Yeah, because they're taking batting practice against you.
With that said, I'm going to try and be fair about that. You can't get to that level of success in your career and not have an ego.
Well, that's right. I agree with that. And I should have said that. You're absolutely right. I agree 100%. But I've seen this a million times. We both have. When pitchers get old, they still think they're really good, and they just won't. They just won't accept the reality. It's really tough. And you know what? I really mean this. I understand why that's really tough, because some of the athletes I've covered and known personally. It's really, really hard for them to kind of, admit that much of what they had in terms of their talent, it's kind of deteriorated to the point where you just can't be effective.
Yeah.
But they still think they can do it. You look at different sports. Look at all these NFL quarterbacks through the years,
I'm good.
Like Joe Namath couldn't even move, and yet he
thought he could.
He goes out to the L.A. Rams, and after all these injuries, and he really in his mind thought, hey, I'm Broadway Joe. Oh, I can still do that. And basically, it was I don't know how many games into the season. He made 5-6 starts, and it was just like,
yeah, can't.
My guy John Unitas. He was done. His arm was gone. And the Colts gently encouraged him to retire, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that for you. He said, no, I still got it. And one of the saddest memories I had as a kid is watching him playing for the San Diego Chargers, where he literally was just stumbling around. His legs were gone too, and it was sad.
Yeah.
Now, he did help the Chargers. You know why? He was a young quarterback named Dan Fouts that they were hoping could show enough to where he could be their next guy. And Johnny Yu, being the leader that he was, he took him under his wing and did everything to help Dan Fouts. But to see him in that Chargers uniform with that powder blue look,
it didn't work.
And he's fallen, like he's literally in games like once a game. I saw it happen in one game like 3 times. He's literally, when he's dropping back, he's literally falling on his keister.
Yeah, it's not good.
But not once did he acknowledge, look, I'm old, my arm's worn out, my legs are worn out. I can't do this anymore. So listen, I'm not going to embarrass myself. So let's just call this off. You know, and there's so many examples of that.
Oh, without a doubt.
You know, great running backs who still thought they had it and they didn't.
One of the pitchers I remember seeing in the 80s as I was a kid, Steve Carlton.
Yeah.
He just went from place to place, and I was like, he was so great. And then you watch him, it was a Cleveland and Minnesota. I was like, my goodness, he needs to stop. Because I loved watching him pitch. He was so good. He was, I tell people, he's one of the best left-handers I ever saw pitch. And when he was on, he'd throw that slider in on the hands of the right-handers, and they couldn't hit it at all.
Just wicked.
Yes.
Now, there's a bunch of examples. I just gave a few that I'm familiar with. And, you know, I've had, you know, the late, great, and he's now a Pro Football Hall of Famer, is an executive. He was a guy that pulled the New York Football Giants out of the swamp after they had been like a joke franchise for a long time. And Pete Rozelle, the commissioner of the NFL, went to Wellington Mayer, the Giants owner, and he said, look, the Giants are a really important franchise, and this has been going on for way too long. You need to hire George Young. You need to hire him. And they did, and as we say, the rest is history.
Yep.
I called when Tony Dorsett wanted out of Dallas because he thought he could still be this, 1,800-yard rusher. I was the beat writer back then at Dallas Morning News. In fact, I broke the story that they were going to trade him to the Broncos. I called George Young up, who's an old friend, Baltimore guy, but an old friend, and just a brilliant guy, but also very, very terse.
Okay.
But it was part of his charm. You call him, and it's like, Bernie Miklasz, and he says, silence. It's like, what the hell do you want? And that's his way of being affectionate,
Gotcha. Yep.
What do you bother me with now? It's going to be some stupid thing, What do you got? And I'm like, well, let's say, what do you do when aging athletes think they're the only person left that thinks they're still great? And so if the team they're with doesn't tell them, oh, yeah, you're great. You'll have this job forever. They think they'll find it somewhere else, and they very, very rarely do. And he came up with a phrase where I think he called it the last dance syndrome, where they know that if they head somewhere else, they're going to dance, metaphorically speaking, as well as they ever have, and they still got it. They still got the moves. They still got this. So they're going to head out, and they're going to find their last dance, and then they're going to be a hero, and they're going to be the best looking guy on the field. And he just said they don't get it, and I don't blame them, but they just don't get it, and they're shocked when a coach or general manager tells them I can't play anymore. So this is not a new situation, but it's going to be. Waino does not have to worry much, except for unless he's, he kind of feels that he doesn't want it. But again, I hope he gets through the season. I hope the pitching gets better. I don't know what else to say. I just can't lie to y'all. And if you want me to lie to y'all, then listen, there's plenty of sports talk radio in St. Louis. You got a lot of places to go for. Because it's like, no. Hey, I saw last night You know, he was an artist. He battled.
Okay. He will battle, but it may not look pretty.
Oh, man. I am your bad boy in town. I dare speak the truth. You know what? We got people on our station that speak the truth, though, too, very much so.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel bad because when I always label people in one group, I'll tell you what. You listen to High Noon, you'll hear the truth being spoken.
They will let you know.
Rammer, Nate Lucas.
Yeah.
No, those fellas, they ain't bashful.
No, they're not.
They're cantankerous.
They are. One more text here.
Sure,
Says the eye test would tell you that Waino is okay through 4. So why doesn't a piggyback start make sense? Is that too logical?
Easy answer. If he pitches 4 innings, there's no way for him to get a win.
That is true.
And
the goal is to get to 200.
That means the individual goals, the Cardinals they'll try to put the individual goals ahead of the team's best interest. That's why.
That's a good point.